The yellow school bus pulled up to the curb at exactly 7:45 in the morning, its brakes squeaking as it came to a stop in front of the modest two-story house on Maple Street. Inside the house, 8-year-old Marcus Johnson was standing in front of the hallway mirror, adjusting his brand-new backpack straps for the 10th time. His mother, Denise Johnson, watched him from the kitchen doorway, her coffee mug warming her hands. She was a nurse at the county hospital, and even though she had worked the night shift, she had made sure to be awake for Marcus's first day at Westbrook Elementary. "You look handsome, baby," she said, her voice thick with emotion she was trying to hide. Marcus turned to face her, his brown eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. "Mom, what if nobody wants to be my friend?" Denise set down her coffee mug and walked over to her son, kneeling down so she could look directly into his eyes. She took his small hands in hers. "Marcus, you listen to me. You are kind, you are smart, and you are going to make wonderful friends. Not everyone you meet will be nice, but that says something about them, not about you. Do you understand?" Marcus nodded slowly. "Dad always said to stand tall and be proud of who I am." Denise's eyes glistened at the mention of her late husband James, who had passed away 2 years ago from a heart condition. She squeezed Marcus's hands tighter. "Your father was the wisest man I ever knew, and he would be so proud of you right now." The bus horn honked outside, and Marcus grabbed his lunch bag from the counter. Denise walked him to the door and watched as he bounded down the front steps. He turned back one more time and waved, his smile bright despite his nerves. "I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby. Have a wonderful day." She watched until the bus disappeared around the corner, then closed the door and let the tears she had been holding back finally fall. Her boy was growing up so fast, and all she wanted was for the world to be kind to him. But the world, as Denise would soon learn, was not always kind. The bus ride to Westbrook Elementary took about 20 minutes, winding through the tree-lined streets of the suburban neighborhood. Marcus sat near the front of the bus, his backpack clutched tightly in his lap. He watched the other children chatting and laughing with each other, clearly already friends from previous years. A girl with red pigtails sat down next to him. She had freckles scattered across her nose and a gap between her front teeth. "Hi, I'm Sophie. What's your name?" "Marcus. Is this your first day? I haven't seen you before." Marcus nodded. "We just moved here from downtown. My mom got a new job." Sophie's eyes lit up. "That's cool. I've lived here my whole life. Westbrook is a good school mostly. Some of the teachers are kind of boring, but Ms. Patterson is really nice. She's the art teacher. Do you like art?" Marcus felt some of his nervousness melt away. "Yeah, I like drawing. My dad used to draw with me before." He trailed off, not wanting to explain about his father. Sophie seemed to understand that she shouldn't push. "Well, maybe we'll have art class together. I hope we're in the same classroom." When the bus pulled up to Westbrook Elementary, Marcus was struck by how big and clean the building looked. It was a 2-story brick building with large windows and a green lawn out front. An American flag waved gently in the morning breeze. Everything about it seemed welcoming and promising. Sophie grabbed his hand as they walked off the bus. "Come on, I'll show you where the office is. You probably need to check in there first." They walked through the front doors together, and Marcus took in the gleaming hallways, the colorful bulletin boards covered with student artwork, and the trophy cases displaying decades of academic and athletic achievements. It was so different from his old school, which had been crowded and run down. The main office was just inside the entrance, with a long counter and several staff members busy at their desks. A woman with grey hair and glasses looked up as Marcus approached. "Good morning, sweetheart. Can I help you?" "I'm Marcus Johnson. Today is my first day." The woman typed something into her computer and smiled. Ah, yes, here you are. Welcome to Westbrook Elementary, Marcus. I'm Mrs. Henderson, the office secretary. Let me get your classroom assignment, and then I'll have someone walk you to your class. She printed out a paper and handed it to him. You're in Mrs. Campbell's class, room 204. She's a wonderful teacher. You're going to love it here. Marcus thanked her and looked at the paper. Room 204, a new beginning. Sophie had been waiting by the door. What room are you in? 204, Mrs. Campbell. Sophie's face fell slightly. Oh, I'm in Mrs. Rivera's class, room 207, but we'll probably have lunch together and definitely recess. I'll see you later, okay? Marcus nodded, grateful to have already made one friend. He followed the directions Mrs. Henderson had given him and found room 204 at the end of the second-floor hallway. The door was decorated with paper cutouts of books and pencils and a sign that read, "Welcome to second grade. Learning is an adventure." He took a deep breath and knocked on the door. A woman in her 50s with warm brown eyes and silver streaks in her dark hair opened it. She smiled down at him. "You must be Marcus. I've been expecting you. Come in, come in." She put a gentle hand on his shoulder and guided him into the classroom. About 20 other students were already seated at their desks, and they all turned to look at the new arrival. "Class, this is Marcus Johnson. He's new to Westbrook, so I want everyone to make him feel welcome." "Marcus, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?" Marcus stood at the front of the room, his heart pounding. Hi, I'm Marcus. I'm 8 years old. I like drawing and reading and playing basketball. I used to live downtown, but now I live on Maple Street." A boy in the back row raised his hand. "Why did you move here?" "My mom got a new job at the hospital." Mrs. Campbell nodded approvingly. "That's wonderful, Marcus. We're happy to have you. There's an empty seat right there next to Benjamin. Benjamin, please raise your hand so Marcus can see where to sit." A boy with sandy blonde hair and glasses raised his hand half-heartedly. Marcus walked over and sat down, carefully placing his backpack under his desk. "Hi," Marcus whispered to Benjamin. Benjamin just looked at him for a moment, then turned back to face the front of the room without responding. Marcus felt a small knot form in his stomach, but he told himself not to worry. Maybe Benjamin was just shy. Not everyone was going to be as friendly as Sophie right away. The morning went by smoothly. Mrs. Campbell was patient and kind, and the lessons were interesting. Marcus found that he was actually a little ahead of the class in reading, thanks to all the books his mother had read to him over the years. During math, he struggled a bit with the multiplication tables, but Mrs. Campbell assured him that he would catch up quickly. At lunchtime, Marcus took his brown paper bag to the cafeteria and looked around for Sophie. He spotted her waving from a table near the window and made his way over. "Marcus, over here!" He sat down across from her, relieved to see a friendly face. Sophie had 2 other girls with her, whom she introduced as Jessica and Taylor. "Marcus is new," Sophie explained to them. "He's really nice." Jessica, a girl with dark curly hair, smiled at him. "Where are you from?" "Downtown, near the old library." Taylor, who was blonde and wore a headband with a bow on it, tilted her head. "I've never been downtown. My mum says it's dangerous." Marcus felt a flicker of defensiveness. "It's not dangerous, it's just different. There are a lot of nice people there." "I'm sure there are," Sophie said quickly, shooting Taylor a look. "So Marcus, what do you have for lunch?" Marcus opened his paper bag and pulled out a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, an apple, and a bag of pretzels. His mother had also tucked in a small note that read, "You've got this. Love, Mom." He smiled at the note and tucked it into his pocket. "My mom packs me notes too," Jessica said, noticing. "It's kind of embarrassing, but also kind of nice." "Yeah," Marcus agreed. "It's nice." The girls chatted about their favorite TV shows and music, and Marcus listened, occasionally adding a comment. He didn't know all the shows they were talking about, but they didn't seem to mind. By the end of lunch, he felt like he had made 3 new friends. Recess was held on a large playground behind the school, complete with swings, a climbing structure, and a basketball court. Marcus's eyes lit up when he saw the basketball hoops. "I'm going to go play basketball," he told Sophie. "Okay, I'll be on the swings if you want to find me later." Marcus jogged over to the court, where a group of boys were already shooting around. He recognized Benjamin among them, along with a few other boys from his class. "Hey, can I play?" Marcus asked. The boys stopped and looked at him. A tall boy with dark hair and an athletic build seemed to be the leader. He looked Marcus up and down. "You know how to play?" "Yeah, I used to play with my dad all the time." The tall boy shrugged. "Fine, you're on Tyler's team." Marcus joined the game, and within a few minutes it became clear that he was actually pretty good. He made several baskets and even stole the ball from the tall boy, whose name he learned was Derek. At first, Derek seemed impressed. "Nice shot," he said, after Marcus sank a 3-pointer. But as the game went on, and Marcus continued to play well, Derek's attitude shifted. He started playing more aggressively, bumping into Marcus harder than necessary and making comments under his breath. "Lucky shot. You're not that good. Where'd you learn to play? The streets?" Marcus tried to ignore the comments and focus on the game, but the last one stung. He wasn't sure if Derek meant it the way it sounded, but there was something in his tone that made Marcus uncomfortable. When the bell rang, signaling the end of recess, Marcus walked back toward the school building. Derek caught up with him and stood in his path. "Hey, new kid, this is my school, you understand? I'm the best basketball player here. Don't think that just because you got lucky today, you're something special." Marcus looked up at Derek, who was a good 6 inches taller. "I wasn't trying to show off. I just like playing basketball." Derek leaned in closer. "Yeah, well, maybe you should find another game to play. Basketball is our thing." Before Marcus could respond, a teacher's whistle blew, and Derek walked away, leaving Marcus standing alone near the basketball court. That afternoon, Marcus tried to focus on his schoolwork, but Derek's words kept echoing in his head. He didn't understand what he had done wrong. He had just played the game, same as everyone else. When the final bell rang, Marcus gathered his things and headed for the bus. Sophie caught up with him in the hallway. "How was your first day? Did you like Mrs. Campbell?" "Yeah, she's nice. The day was okay." Sophie studied his face. "Just okay. What happened?" Marcus hesitated. "There's this boy, Derek. He was kind of mean to me during recess. I don't know why." Sophie's expression darkened. "Derek Miller. He's always been like that. He thinks he's the king of the school because his dad is some big businessman. Don't let him bother you. He's just a bully." "I'll try not to." They boarded the bus together and sat in the same seats as that morning. Sophie talked about her favorite books and movies, trying to cheer Marcus up, and by the time the bus reached his stop, he was feeling a little better. "See you tomorrow, Marcus." "See you, Sophie." He walked up the path to his house, where his mother was waiting at the door. She must have just woken up from sleeping after her night shift, but she was there, eager to hear about his day. "How was it, baby? Tell me everything." Marcus hugged her tightly. "It was good, Mom. I made some friends." "That's wonderful. I knew you would." He didn't mention Derek. He didn't want his mother to worry. Besides, maybe tomorrow would be better. Maybe Derek would forget about the basketball game and leave him alone. But tomorrow was not better, and the days that followed only got worse. Over the next few weeks, Derek made it his mission to make Marcus's life difficult. It started with small things: tripping Marcus in the hallway, hiding his pencils during class, spreading rumors that Marcus cheated on tests. When Marcus tried to join the basketball game at recess, Derek would say the teams were full. When Marcus sat down at a lunch table, Derek would convince the other boys to move to a different table. Marcus tried to ignore it, just like his mother had always told him. He tried to kill them with kindness, as his father used to say. But nothing seemed to work. The worst part was that Derek was never caught. He was smart about his bullying, always doing it when teachers weren't looking, always having a plausible excuse ready. I didn't trip him. He just fell. I didn't hide his pencils. He must have lost them himself. I wasn't making fun of him. We were just joking around. And because Derek's father, Richard Miller, was a wealthy businessman who donated generously to the school, the teachers seemed reluctant to do anything about it. One afternoon, about a month after Marcus started at Westbrook, things came to a head. Marcus was in the bathroom washing his hands when Derek and two of his friends, Tyler and Jason, walked in. They blocked the door. "Look who it is," Derek said with a smirk. "The new kid who thinks he's better than everyone." "I don't think that," Marcus said quietly. "I just want to be left alone." "You don't belong here," Derek said, stepping closer. "Why don't you go back to where you came from?" "I live here now. This is my school too." Derek laughed, a cruel sound that echoed off the bathroom tiles. "Your school? This school is for normal kids, not for kids like you." Marcus felt his face grow hot. "Kids like me? What does that mean?" Derek's smirk widened. "You know exactly what it means." Before Marcus could respond, Tyler and Jason grabbed his arms and held him against the wall. Derek stepped forward and pushed Marcus hard in the chest. "Stay out of my way, or things are going to get a lot worse for you." They left Marcus alone in the bathroom. His heart pounding and his eyes stinging with tears he refused to let fall. He looked at himself in the mirror, at his brown skin and curly black hair, and finally understood what Derek had been saying all along. It wasn't just about basketball. It wasn't just about being the new kid. It was about the color of his skin. That evening, Marcus couldn't hide his feelings from his mother anymore. Denise noticed immediately that something was wrong when he barely touched his dinner. "Marcus, what's going on? You've been so quiet lately." Marcus stared at his plate. "Nothing, Mom. I'm just tired." Denise set down her fork and reached across the table to take his hand. "Baby, I know when something is bothering you. Please talk to me." The dam broke. Marcus told her everything, about Derek, about the bullying, about the comments and the shoving and the feeling of being unwanted. By the time he finished, tears were streaming down his face, and Denise's expression had shifted from concern to barely contained fury. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I didn't want you to worry. And I thought maybe if I just ignored it, it would stop." Denise pulled him into a tight hug. "Listen to me, Marcus. What those boys are doing is wrong. It is cruel, and it is hateful, and it is absolutely not your fault. Do you understand me?" Marcus nodded against her shoulder. "I'm going to talk to the school tomorrow. This needs to stop." The next morning, Denise Johnson marched into the Westbrook Elementary main office with a determination that made even Mrs. Henderson sit up straighter. "I need to speak with the principal immediately. It's about my son, Marcus Johnson." Mrs. Henderson hesitated. "Principal Harrison is in a meeting right now. Perhaps you could make an appointment for later this week." "No, I need to speak with him now. My son is being bullied, and I will not wait another day." Something in Denise's voice must have conveyed the seriousness of the situation, because Mrs. Henderson picked up the phone and made a call. A few minutes later, she led Denise down the hallway to the principal's office. Principal Thomas Harrison was a man in his early 60s with thinning grey hair and a permanent frown etched into his features. He sat behind a large mahogany desk, and he didn't stand up when Denise entered the room. "Mrs. Johnson, I understand you wanted to see me. Please, have a seat." Denise sat down but kept her posture rigid and her expression serious. "Principal Harrison, My son Marcus has been attending this school for about a month now, and during that time he has been systematically bullied by another student named Derek Miller. Principal Harrison's expression remained neutral, but Denise noticed a slight twitch at the corner of his eye at the mention of the Miller name. "I see. And what exactly has this bullying entailed?" Denise detailed everything Marcus had told her: the tripping, the hiding of school supplies, the exclusion from games, the rumors, and finally, the physical confrontation in the bathroom along with the racially charged comments. When she finished, Principal Harrison was quiet for a long moment. Then he leaned back in his chair and steepled his fingers. "Mrs. Johnson, I appreciate you bringing this to my attention. However, I must say that what you're describing sounds like typical childhood conflicts. Boys will be boys, as they say, and I'm sure Marcus, being new to the school, may have misinterpreted some of the interactions." Denise felt her blood pressure rise. "Misinterpreted? My son was held against a wall and told he doesn't belong here because of the color of his skin. There is no misinterpretation. With all due respect, Mrs. Johnson, Derek Miller is an excellent student from a well-respected family. I find it hard to believe he would engage in the kind of behavior you're describing." "Are you calling my son a liar?" Principal Harrison held up his hands. "Not at all. I'm simply saying that there are two sides to every story, and we need to consider all perspectives before making any judgments." "Then consider this perspective. My son comes home every day afraid. He doesn't want to go to school. He's been physically assaulted, and when he told me why, he repeated comments that are clearly racist in nature. What more do you need?" The principal's frown deepened. "I will look into the matter. But I must caution you against making accusations of racism without concrete evidence. These are serious allegations that could damage a young man's future." "And what about my son's future? What about the damage being done to him?" Principal Harrison stood up, signaling that the meeting was over. "I will speak with Derek and his parents. That's all I can promise you at this time." Denise stood as well, her jaw tight. "I expect a follow-up within the week, Principal Harrison, and if I don't see real action being taken, I will escalate this matter to the school board." She left the office without waiting for a response. A week passed, and nothing changed. Derek continued to torment Marcus, seemingly emboldened by the fact that he had faced no consequences. The other students either didn't notice or didn't care, and the teachers remained oblivious. Marcus tried to avoid Derek as much as possible, but the school wasn't that big, and Derek always seemed to find him. The comments became more frequent and more explicit. "Why don't you go back to Africa? We don't want your kind here. You think you're as good as us? You're nothing." Each comment was a knife, cutting deeper and deeper into Marcus's spirit. He stopped participating in class. He stopped playing basketball. He started eating lunch alone in a corner of the cafeteria, away from everyone. Sophie tried to reach out to him multiple times. "Marcus, please talk to me. I can see something is wrong. Let me help." But Marcus just shook his head. "You can't help. Nobody can." Denise noticed the change in her son and called the school again, demanding to know what action had been taken. Principal Harrison assured her that he had spoken with Derek and his parents and that the situation was being monitored, but nothing changed. Finally, at her wits' end, Denise decided to take matters into her own hands. She requested a meeting with Derek's parents directly, hoping that a conversation between adults could resolve what the school seemed unwilling to address. The meeting was scheduled for the following Thursday evening at the school, in one of the empty classrooms. Denise arrived 15 minutes early and sat at a student desk, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Richard and Catherine Miller arrived exactly on time. Richard was a tall man with silver hair and an expensive suit. Catherine was blonde and thin, wearing designer clothes and carrying a handbag that probably cost more than Denise's monthly rent. They sat down across from Denise, their expressions ranging from bored to openly hostile. "Mrs. Johnson," Richard began, his tone condescending, "I want to make one thing clear from the start. My son is not a bully, and he is certainly not a racist. Whatever your son has told you, I'm sure it's been exaggerated or misunderstood." Denise kept her voice calm. "Mr. Miller, my son has been coming home in tears for weeks. He's been told, in explicit terms, that he doesn't belong at this school because of the color of his skin. Those are not the words of a confused child. Those are the words of someone who has learned hatred from somewhere." Catherine's eyes narrowed. "Are you suggesting that we taught our son to be racist? I'm suggesting that your son's behavior is learned and it needs to be addressed. If not at home, then at school. But someone needs to take responsibility." Richard leaned forward, his face reddening. "Now listen here, Mrs. Johnson. I don't know how things were done at whatever school your son came from, but here at Westbrook, we don't tolerate baseless accusations. My family has been a part of this community for 3 generations. We've donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to this school. We are pillars of this town. And my son is a child who deserves to feel safe. Your son," Richard said, his voice dripping with disdain, "is an outsider who came here from who knows where and started causing problems. Maybe if he learned to fit in better, he wouldn't have these issues." Denise stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Fit in? My son shouldn't have to fit in to avoid being tormented. He should be accepted for who he is, just like any other child." Catherine stood as well, clutching her handbag. "This meeting is over. We came here in good faith, and all we've received is insults and accusations. If you have any further concerns, you can address them through the proper legal channels. We have an excellent attorney." The Millers swept out of the room, leaving Denise standing alone, shaking with anger and frustration. That night, Denise held Marcus close and made him a promise. "I'm not giving up, baby. I'm going to fight for you, no matter what it takes." Marcus looked up at her with eyes that had seen too much hurt for an 8-year-old. "What if it doesn't matter, Mum? What if they'll never accept me?" Denise felt her heart shatter, but she kept her voice steady. "Then we'll find people who will. There are good people in this world, Marcus. I promise you that, and we're going to find them." The following Monday, Denise drafted a formal complaint to the Westbrook School District, detailing every incident of bullying and discrimination that Marcus had experienced. She included dates, times, and specific quotes to the best of Marcus's recollection. She sent copies to the superintendent, the school board, and the district's Office of Civil Rights. She also reached out to local community organizations, including the NAACP chapter and a civil rights advocacy group. She was not going to let this go quietly. A week later, she received a response from the school district, a formal letter acknowledging her complaint and informing her that an investigation would be conducted. In the meantime, they suggested that Marcus could transfer to a different school if the current environment was proving too difficult. Denise read the letter 3 times, her anger building with each reading. Transfer schools? Her son was the victim, and they were suggesting that he should be the one to leave. She fired back a response. Marcus Johnson would not be transferring anywhere. The school had a responsibility to provide a safe learning environment for all students, and she expected them to fulfill that responsibility. Weeks turned into months. The investigation dragged on, buried in bureaucracy and delayed by procedural requirements. Meanwhile, Marcus continued to suffer. Derek, having learned about the formal complaint through his parents, was now even more careful about his bullying. He never did anything where he could be caught, but the psychological torment continued. "Your mom thinks she's going to get me in trouble. That's hilarious. My dad owns this town. Nothing is going to happen to me. You're going to regret ever coming here. Just wait. Things are going to get so much worse for you." Marcus tried to stay strong, but it was getting harder and harder. His grades, which had been good at the start of the year, began to slip. He stopped talking to Sophie and the other friends he had made. He spent more and more time alone in his room, drawing pictures that his mother noticed were getting darker and sadder. Denise took him to see a child psychologist, Dr. Patricia Williams, who was a kind woman with a soothing voice and an office full of comfortable furniture and soft lighting. Marcus was reluctant to open up at first, but over several sessions he began to share his feelings. "I feel like I'm invisible," he told Dr. Williams one afternoon. "Like I don't matter, like nothing I do is ever going to be good enough." Dr. Williams leaned forward. "Marcus, those feelings are understandable given what you've been going through, but I want you to know that they're not true. You matter, you have value, and what's happening to you is not okay, and it's not your fault." "Then why won't anyone stop it?" Dr. Williams was quiet for a moment. "Sometimes the systems that are supposed to protect us don't work the way they should. Sometimes it takes a lot of fighting to make things right, but your mother is fighting for you, and there are other people out there who will fight for you too. You just have to hold on." "I'm trying," Marcus whispered. "I'm really trying." Spring arrived, and with it, a glimmer of hope. Denise's complaint had finally reached the desk of the state's Department of Education, which had opened its own investigation into the Westbrook School District's handling of discrimination complaints. The local media had also picked up the story, thanks to Denise's outreach to advocacy groups. A reporter from the local news station, a young woman named Amanda Chen, interviewed Denise for a segment that aired on the evening news. "Mrs. Johnson, can you tell us what your son has experienced at Westbrook Elementary?" Denise, sitting in her living room with Marcus beside her, spoke clearly and calmly. "My son has been subjected to months of bullying and racial harassment. He's been physically assaulted, verbally abused, and made to feel like he doesn't belong because of the color of his skin. And when I brought this to the attention of the school, I was dismissed. My concerns were minimized, and my son was left to suffer." Amanda turned to Marcus. "Marcus, how has this experience affected you?" Marcus, coached by his mother and Dr. Williams on what to expect, took a deep breath. "It made me feel really sad and scared. I didn't want to go to school anymore. I felt like nobody cared about me except my mom." The interview generated significant attention. Social media lit up with comments of support for Marcus and outrage at the school's inaction. Parents of other students at Westbrook began coming forward with their own stories of discrimination and bullying that had been ignored. Principal Harrison issued a statement defending the school's record on diversity and inclusion, but it rang hollow in the face of the mounting evidence. And then the unexpected happened. Governor Elizabeth Warren Mitchell, who had been elected on a platform of education reform and civil rights, saw the news story. She was moved by Marcus's courage and infuriated by the school's failures. She made a call to her chief of staff. "I want to visit Westbrook Elementary, and I want to meet this young man." The visit was scheduled for the following week. When the announcement was made, it sent shockwaves through the school district. Principal Harrison was in a panic. He called an emergency meeting with his staff, scrambling to prepare for the governor's arrival. "We need to make sure everything is perfect. I want the hallways clean, the classrooms spotless, and every student on their best behavior. This is a chance to show the governor that Westbrook is an outstanding school." One of the teachers, Mrs. Campbell, spoke up. "With all due respect, Principal Harrison, maybe instead of putting on a show, we should address the actual problems. Marcus Johnson has been suffering in this school, and we've done nothing to help him." Harrison's face flushed. "That situation is being handled through proper channels. Our focus right now needs to be on presenting a positive image." Mrs. Campbell shook her head, but said nothing more. She had seen what Marcus had been going through, and she had tried to intervene several times, only to be shut down by the administration. Maybe the governor's visit would finally force some real change. The day of the governor's visit was unseasonably warm, the May sunshine streaming through the school's large windows. Students had been told to dress nicely and to be on their best behavior. The hallways had been decorated with student artwork and banners welcoming the governor. Marcus's mother had taken the day off work to be there. She sat in the front row of the school auditorium where the main event would take place, her heart pounding with a mixture of hope and anxiety. Marcus sat beside her, wearing a new button-down shirt his mother had bought for the occasion. He was nervous, his hands fidgeting in his lap. "Mom, what if the governor doesn't believe me?" Denise took his hand. "She's coming here because she saw your story and she cared. She believes you, Marcus, and today everyone is going to hear the truth." At exactly 10 o'clock, a motorcade pulled up to the school's entrance. Governor Elizabeth Warren Mitchell stepped out, flanked by her security detail and staff. She was a tall woman with short grey hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. She wore a navy blue suit and carried herself with an air of quiet authority. Principal Harrison was waiting at the entrance, his smile stretched thin with nervous energy. "Governor Warren Mitchell, welcome to Westbrook Elementary. We're so honored to have you here." The governor shook his hand briefly. "Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to seeing the school and meeting with some of the students and parents." Harrison led her through the hallways, pointing out various achievements and programs. The governor listened politely but said little, her eyes taking in everything around her. They passed a group of students who had been positioned by the entrance to wave and smile. The governor stopped and knelt down to speak with them. "Hello there. What are your names?" The children introduced themselves, clearly thrilled to be speaking with the governor. She asked them about their favorite subjects and what they wanted to be when they grew up. Her warmth was genuine, and the children responded with enthusiasm. As they continued down the hallway, the governor noticed a display of student artwork. One piece caught her eye. A drawing of a boy standing alone in a field of grey while colourful figures stood in a group in the distance, their backs turned. "Who drew this?" Harrison's smile faltered. "I'm not sure, Governor. Probably one of the younger students." The governor studied the drawing for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she moved on. The tour concluded in the auditorium, where several hundred students, parents and staff had gathered. Principal Harrison took the podium first, delivering a carefully rehearsed speech about Westbrook's commitment to excellence and its welcoming community. The governor sat in a chair on the stage, her expression neutral as she listened. When Harrison finished, the governor rose and approached the podium. The room fell silent. "Thank you, Principal Harrison, for that introduction. And thank you all for welcoming me to Westbrook Elementary today." She paused, looking out over the audience. "I've heard a lot about this school in recent weeks. Some of it has been positive, about academic achievements and extracurricular programs, but some of it has been troubling." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Harrison's face went pale. "I'm here today because a young boy named Marcus Johnson had the courage to speak up about what he's been experiencing at this school. He talked about being bullied, about being made to feel unwelcome, about being targeted because of the color of his skin." The governor's eyes found Marcus in the front row. "Marcus, would you please come up here and join me?" Marcus looked at his mother, who nodded encouragingly. He stood up on shaky legs and walked to the stage, climbing the steps and standing beside the governor. "This young man," the governor continued, placing a gentle hand on Marcus's shoulder, "showed more courage than many adults I know. When faced with cruelty and injustice, he didn't stay silent. He told his mother, and she fought for him. And together, they brought attention to a problem that had been ignored for too long." She turned to face the audience directly. Let me be very clear. Discrimination has no place in our schools. Bullying has no place in our schools. Every child, regardless of their race, their background, or where they come from, deserves to feel safe and valued. That is not negotiable. Principal Harrison shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I have spoken with the State Department of Education and the Westbrook School Board. There will be a full and transparent investigation into how this situation was handled. And there will be accountability. A collective gasp went through the audience. The governor continued, but accountability alone is not enough. We need to do better. We need training for our teachers and staff on how to recognize and address discrimination. We need clear and enforced policies against bullying. And we need a culture shift, one that truly embraces diversity and inclusion, not just in words, but in actions. She looked down at Marcus. Marcus, I want to apologize to you on behalf of every adult who should have protected you and didn't. You deserved better. And I promise you, we're going to do better. Marcus's eyes filled with tears, but for the first time in months, they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of relief, of hope, of feeling finally, truly seen. Thank you, he whispered. The governor smiled. No, thank you. Your courage is going to help a lot of other children. Never forget that. She turned back to the audience. Now, I understand that there are parents here who have similar concerns, who have felt ignored or dismissed when they've tried to advocate for their children. I want to hear from you. My staff will be setting up listening sessions over the next few weeks, and I encourage everyone who has a story to share to come forward. She stepped back from the podium. Thank you all for your time, and remember, our children are watching us. Let's show them what it means to do the right thing. The applause that followed was thunderous. Marcus's mother was on her feet, tears streaming down her face. Other parents rose as well, clapping and cheering. In the back of the auditorium, Derek Miller sat with his arms crossed, his face sullen. His father, Richard, was furious, his face red and his jaw clenched. But there was nothing they could do. The governor had spoken and the whole community had heard. After the assembly, the governor made a point of speaking privately with Denise and Marcus in an empty classroom. Mrs. Johnson, I've read your complaint and the documentation you provided. You did everything right. The system failed you and your son, and for that, I am truly sorry. Denise shook the governor's hand, her grip firm. Thank you for coming, Governor. It means more than you know. I meant what I said. There will be changes. Principal Harrison has already been placed on administrative leave pending the investigation. The superintendent has been put on notice, and I've directed additional funding for anti-discrimination programs in schools across the state. She knelt down to Marcus's level. Young man, I want you to promise me something. Marcus nodded, his eyes wide. Promise me that you'll keep being brave, keep speaking up when something isn't right. The world needs more people like you. I promise. The governor smiled and stood up. Good. I have a feeling we're going to hear great things from you someday, Marcus Johnson. In the weeks that followed, the changes came swiftly. Principal Harrison was terminated after the investigation revealed a pattern of ignoring discrimination complaints and prioritizing the concerns of wealthy donors over the welfare of students. Several other staff members who had been complicit received reprimands and mandatory training. A new principal, Dr. Angela Foster, was brought in from another district. She had a reputation for being tough but fair, and her first priority was implementing comprehensive anti-bullying and anti-discrimination policies. Derek Miller was suspended for 2 weeks and required to attend counseling sessions. His father, Richard, threatened lawsuits and public campaigns, but his influence had waned significantly. Other parents had come forward with stories of the Millers' bullying behavior, and the community's sympathy was firmly on the side of the victims. Marcus, slowly but surely, began to heal. With the support of his mother, Dr. Williams, and the new school environment, he started to regain his confidence. He began participating in class again. He rejoined the basketball team, which now had strict rules against exclusionary behavior. He even started sitting with Sophie and his other friends at lunch. One afternoon, about 2 months after the governor's visit, something unexpected happened. Marcus was shooting baskets alone on the playground when Derek approached him. Marcus tensed, preparing for another confrontation, but Derek's expression was different. He looked uncertain, almost nervous. "Hey," Derek said. Marcus didn't respond, just held the basketball and waited. Derek shuffled his feet. "I wanted to say I'm sorry." Marcus blinked. "What?" "I'm sorry for everything I did to you. It was wrong." Marcus studied Derek's face, looking for signs of deception or mockery, but all he saw was a boy who looked genuinely uncomfortable and ashamed. "Why did you do it?" Marcus asked. Derek was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. My dad always said stuff about people who were different, and I guess I just believed him. But the counselor I've been seeing, she's been helping me understand that what he taught me was wrong, that everyone deserves to be treated the same, no matter what they look like." Marcus considered this. "It really hurt, you know. What you said, what you did. I felt like I was worthless." Derek's eyes dropped to the ground. "I know, and I can't take it back. But I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to change." A long silence stretched between them. Then Marcus did something that surprised even himself. He held out the basketball. "You want to play?" Derek looked up, shock written across his face. "Really?" "1 game. We'll see how it goes." They played one-on-one for about 20 minutes, and for the first time it was just a game. No insults, no aggression, just 2 boys playing basketball. When the bell rang, they walked back toward the school together. "Hey, Marcus." "Yeah?" "Thanks for giving me a chance." Marcus nodded. "Everyone deserves a chance to be better. That's what my mom always says." They weren't friends, not yet. Maybe they never would be. But they weren't enemies anymore either, and for Marcus, that was enough. Summer arrived, bringing with it a sense of renewal and possibility. Marcus had finished 2nd grade with good grades and a report card full of positive comments from Dr. Foster and his teachers. Mrs. Campbell had written a special note praising his resilience and courage. On the last day of school, Sophie found Marcus at his locker. "We're going to the community pool this weekend. Do you want to come?" Marcus smiled. "Yeah, that sounds fun." "Great. My mum will pick you up at noon on Saturday." As Marcus walked out of the school building for the last time that year, his mother was waiting for him in the parking lot. She was leaning against their car, a proud smile on her face. "How's my graduate?" Marcus ran to her and hugged her tightly. "I did it, Mom. I made it through." Denise held him close, breathing in the scent of his hair, marveling at how much he had grown in just 1 year. "You did more than make it through, baby. You stood up for yourself. You changed things. I am so incredibly proud of you." They got in the car and drove home, the windows down and the warm breeze blowing through. Marcus watched the familiar streets pass by, feeling a sense of peace he hadn't felt in a long time. That evening, they had a special dinner to celebrate. Marcus's favorite, spaghetti and meatballs, with chocolate cake for dessert. They ate in the backyard, the sunset painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course, baby." "Do you think things are really going to be different now? At school, I mean." Denise considered the question carefully. "I think things are already different. But change takes time. There will still be people who are unkind, who don't understand. The important thing is that you keep being who you are, kind, brave, and true to yourself. Marcus nodded slowly. I'm going to try. That's all any of us can do. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars begin to appear in the darkening sky. Dad would have been proud of me, wouldn't he? Marcus asked softly. Denise's eyes glistened. He would have been the proudest father in the world. Marcus smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. For the first time in a long time, he felt like everything was going to be okay. The story of Marcus Johnson didn't end there, of course. His journey was just beginning. When he started third grade in the fall, he did so with a new sense of confidence and purpose. He joined the school's student council, becoming a voice for students who felt unheard. He started a peer support group for kids who had experienced bullying, with Dr. Foster's enthusiastic backing. He also continued to play basketball, and by fifth grade, he was one of the best players in the school. College scouts would eventually come to watch him play in high school, drawn by his talent and his story. But more than his achievements, what defined Marcus was his character. He never forgot what it felt like to be the outsider, the one who didn't belong. And he made it his mission to make sure no one else felt that way. He befriended the new kids. He stood up for the ones who were picked on. He spoke out against injustice whenever he saw it, just as the governor had asked him to do. Years later, when Marcus was a junior in high school, he received an unexpected letter. It was an invitation to speak at a statewide conference on education and civil rights, alongside Governor Warren Mitchell, who was now in her second term. His mother helped him write his speech, and on the day of the conference she sat in the front row, just as she had at Westbrook Elementary all those years ago. Marcus stood at the podium, looking out at an audience of hundreds. Educators, policymakers, parents, students. He felt the familiar flutter of nervousness, but it was manageable now. He had done this before. "My name is Marcus Johnson," he began. "When I was 8 years old, I started at a new school where I was told, in no uncertain terms, that I didn't belong." He told his story, the whole story, from the first day of bullying to the governor's visit and everything that came after. He spoke about the pain of being targeted, the frustration of being ignored, and the hope that came when someone finally listened. "But this isn't just my story," he continued. "It's the story of countless children across this country who face discrimination every day. Children who are told they're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy of respect, simply because of who they are." He paused, his eyes finding his mother in the audience. "I was lucky. I had a mother who believed me and fought for me. I had people who eventually stepped up and made things right. But not every child is that lucky, and that's why we're here today. To make sure that every child, no matter their race, their background, or their circumstances, has the chance to feel safe, valued, and supported." The applause was deafening. After the speech, Governor Warren Mitchell found Marcus backstage. "You've come a long way from that scared little boy I met in Westbrook." Marcus smiled. "I had a lot of help along the way." "You had the courage to ask for that help. That makes all the difference." She shook his hand firmly. "I told you all those years ago that I had a feeling we'd hear great things from you. I was right." Marcus thought about his father, about the lessons he had taught him before he passed. Stand tall. Be proud of who you are. Treat everyone with kindness, even when they don't deserve it. "I'm just trying to live up to the example that was set for me," Marcus said. The governor nodded approvingly. "Keep at it. The world needs more people like you." As Marcus walked out of the conference center that evening, his mother at his side, he looked up at the sky. The sun was setting, painting the clouds in brilliant shades of gold and crimson. "Mom?" "Yes, baby?" "Thank you for everything." Denise linked her arm through his, pulling him close. "You never have to thank me for loving you. That's just what mothers do." They walked together toward the car, two figures silhouetted against the fading light, their shadows stretching long behind them. The road ahead was still uncertain. There would be more challenges, more obstacles, more moments of doubt and fear. But Marcus knew now that he could face them. He had proved it to himself, to his community, and to the world. He was Marcus Johnson. He belonged. And nothing and no one could ever take that away from him. The yellow school bus pulled up to the curb at Westbrook Elementary, just as it had done thousands of times before. But this morning was different. This morning, Marcus Johnson was not a passenger. He was a teacher. At 28 years old, Marcus had returned to the school that had nearly broken him, now as a second-grade teacher and the school's diversity and inclusion coordinator. It was a position that had been created in part because of him, and he had fought hard to be the one to fill it. He stepped off the sidewalk and through the front doors, memories flooding back with every step. The hallways looked the same, mostly. The trophy cases, the colourful bulletin boards, the morning bustle of children finding their classrooms. But there were differences too. There were murals celebrating different cultures. There were posters with messages about kindness and respect. There was a plaque near the entrance commemorating the school's commitment to equity and inclusion. And there, in a frame near the principal's office, was a photograph. It showed an 8-year-old boy standing on a stage next to the governor, both of them looking out at an audience with determination in their eyes. The caption read, "The courage to speak up can change the world." Marcus paused in front of the photograph, a soft smile playing on his lips. "Mr. Johnson?" He turned to see a small girl with braids and bright eyes running toward him. She was one of his students, Aaliyah, and she was clutching a piece of paper in her hand. "Look what I drew! It's you and me and the whole class!" Marcus knelt down to examine the drawing. It showed a group of stick figures, all different colors, standing together under a smiling sun. In the middle was a taller figure labeled Mr. Johnson, with a big heart on his chest. "This is beautiful, Aaliyah. I love it. I wanted to give it to you because you always make everyone feel special." Marcus felt a lump form in his throat. He hugged Aaliyah gently. "Thank you. This means more to me than you know." The bell rang, signaling the start of the school day. Marcus stood up and took Aaliyah's hand. "Come on, let's go learn something amazing today." As they walked toward the classroom, Marcus thought about all the children who would pass through these halls in the years to come. Some of them would face challenges like he had. Some of them would feel alone, unwanted, out of place. But if he had anything to say about it, they would also find support. They would find someone who believed in them, who fought for them, who refused to let them be invisible. That was his mission. That was his purpose. That was the legacy of everything he had been through. He reached his classroom, room 204, the same room where he had sat as a nervous 8-year-old on his first day. He opened the door and was greeted by the eager faces of 22 second-graders, all waiting for the day to begin. "Good morning, everyone." "Good morning, Mr. Johnson." Marcus walked to the front of the room and wrote a question on the whiteboard. "What makes you special?" He turned back to face his students. "Today, we're going to talk about something really important. We're going to talk about what makes each of us unique and wonderful. And we're going to learn how to celebrate our differences instead of being afraid of them." A boy in the front row raised his hand. "Mr. Johnson, what makes you special?" Marcus smiled. It was the question he had hoped someone would ask. "A lot of things make me special. I'm a great basketball player. I'm a pretty good cook. I love reading mystery books. But do you know what I think makes me the most special?" The children leaned forward, eager to hear. I never gave up. Even when things were really hard, even when people were unkind to me, I kept going. I kept believing that things could get better. And they did. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of each child. And that's what I want for all of you. I want you to know that no matter what challenges you face, no matter what anyone says to you, you have the power to overcome. You have the power to be kind. You have the power to make a difference. He paused, letting the words sink in. Now, who wants to share what makes them special? Every hand in the room shot up. Outside the window, the sun was rising higher, casting golden light across the playground where Marcus had once felt so alone. But he wasn't alone anymore. He was surrounded by children who needed him, a community that believed in him, and a purpose that gave his life meaning. The journey had been long and difficult. There had been tears and anger and moments of despair. But there had also been courage and love and the unwavering support of those who mattered most. And now, standing in front of a classroom full of eager young minds, Marcus Johnson knew that every step of that journey had been worth it. He was exactly where he was meant to be. The day passed quickly, filled with lessons and laughter and the boundless energy of second graders. During lunch, Marcus ate in his classroom, using the quiet time to catch up on grading. A knock on the door interrupted him. "Come in." The door opened, and a familiar face appeared. It was Derek Miller, now a construction foreman with broad shoulders and calloused hands. He looked nervous, shuffling his feet the same way he had all those years ago on the playground. "Hey, Mr. Johnson, I heard you were working here now." Marcus stood up, surprised but not unwelcoming. "Derek, it's been a long time." "Yeah, I have a daughter now, Emily. She's starting second grade next year, and I was thinking about enrolling her here." Marcus nodded slowly. "That's great. Westbrook has changed a lot since we were kids." I've heard." Derek hesitated, then continued. "I wanted to come by and I don't know. I guess I wanted to thank you." "Thank me?" "For giving me a chance back then, on the basketball court. I didn't deserve it, but you did it anyway. It was the first time anyone had ever shown me that kind of grace." Marcus remembered that afternoon vividly, the hesitation he had felt, the risk he had taken, and now, standing before him, was the evidence that it had mattered. "We all make mistakes, Derek. What matters is that we learn from them." Derek nodded, his eyes glistening. "I've tried. I've really tried. I'm raising Emily to be different than how I was raised, to see people for who they are, not what they look like. That's the best thing any of us can do." They shook hands, two men who had started as enemies and become, if not friends, then something close to it. "I'll see you around, Mr. Johnson." "Take care, Derek." After Derek left, Marcus sat back down at his desk, marveling at how life worked sometimes. The boy who had once told him he didn't belong was now bringing his daughter to the same school, hoping she would experience the inclusive environment that Marcus had fought to create. It was proof that change was possible, that people could grow, that the cycles of hatred and prejudice could be broken one person at a time. The final bell of the day rang, and Marcus walked his students to the bus line. He high-fived each of them as they boarded, calling out reminders about homework and wishes for a good afternoon. "See you tomorrow, Mr. Johnson. See you tomorrow." He watched as the buses pulled away, then turned and walked back toward the school. There was still work to do, papers to grade, lessons to plan, meetings to prepare for. But he didn't mind. This was his life's work, and he was grateful for every moment of it. As he passed through the front entrance, he paused once more at the photograph of himself as a child. He thought about all the people who had helped him along the way. His mother, who had never stopped fighting, Dr. Williams, who had helped him heal, Mrs. Campbell, who had believed in him, Sophie, who had been his first friend, and Governor Warren Mitchell, who had listened when so many others had turned away. He thought about his father, too, James Johnson, who had taught him to stand tall and be proud, who had played basketball with him in the driveway and read him stories at bedtime, who had loved him unconditionally for the 6 short years they had together. "I hope I'm making you proud, Dad," Marcus whispered. A breeze blew through the open door, ruffling his hair, and for just a moment Marcus could have sworn he heard his father's voice, warm and reassuring. "You always have, son. You always have." Marcus smiled, blinked away the tears that had formed in his eyes, and continued on his way. The evening sun cast long shadows across the parking lot as Marcus finally left the school. His mother was coming over for dinner that night, a weekly tradition they had maintained ever since he moved back to town. She was retired now, after 30 years at the hospital, but she was busier than ever, volunteering at the community center and serving on the board of several local non-profits. When Marcus arrived home, he found her already in the kitchen, stirring a pot of soup on the stove. "Mom, I told you I would cook tonight." Denise waved her hand dismissively. "Please. I've been cooking for you since before you were born. I'm not about to stop now." Marcus laughed and kissed her on the cheek. "Fine, but next week it's my turn. We'll see." They ate dinner at the small table in Marcus's kitchen, talking about their days and catching up on the latest news. Denise told him about the new after-school program she was helping to launch at the community center, which would provide tutoring and mentorship for at-risk youth. Marcus told her about his students, about Derek's visit, about the small victories and challenges of each day. "I'm so proud of you, you know," Denise said as they cleared the dishes. "I know, Mom. You tell me every week. And I'll keep telling you until the day I die." Marcus hugged her tightly. "I wouldn't be here without you. I wouldn't be any of this without you." Denise pulled back and cupped his face in her hands. "You were always special, Marcus. From the day you were born, I knew you were going to do great things. All I did was give you the chance to prove it." "That's not nothing. That's everything." They finished cleaning up and settled on the couch to watch a movie, just like they used to do when Marcus was a child. Denise fell asleep halfway through, her head resting on Marcus's shoulder. He gently covered her with a blanket and let her rest. As the credits rolled, Marcus turned off the TV and sat in the quiet darkness, reflecting on his life. He thought about the scared little boy who had walked into Westbrook Elementary all those years ago, dreaming of making friends and fitting in. He thought about the pain and the struggle and the long road to healing. And he thought about where he was now, a teacher, a leader, a man who had turned his trauma into a mission. The journey wasn't over. There was still so much work to do, so many children to reach, so many minds to change. But for the first time in a long time, Marcus felt at peace. He had found his purpose, he had found his place, and he knew with absolute certainty that he belonged. The next morning, Marcus woke up early and went for a run through his neighborhood. The streets were quiet, the air fresh with the promise of a new day. He ran past the house on Maple Street where he had grown up, now occupied by a young family with 2 kids. He ran past the park where he used to play, where his father had taught him to ride a bike. He ran past the hospital where his mother had worked, where she had saved countless lives over the years. He ran until his lungs burned and his legs ached, and then he ran some more. Running had always been his way of clearing his mind, of working through his thoughts and emotions. Today, he was thinking about the future. Next month, he was scheduled to give a keynote speech at the National Conference on Educational Equity. It was a huge honor, one that would put him in front of thousands of educators and policymakers from across the country. He wanted to make sure his message was clear, powerful, and true to his experience. As he rounded the final corner and headed home, the words began to form in his mind. Every child deserves to be seen. Every child deserves to be heard. Every child deserves a champion who will fight for them, believe in them, and never give up on them. He would tell his story. He would share the lessons he had learned, and he would challenge everyone in that audience to be the change their communities needed. When Marcus arrived at school that morning, he found a surprise waiting for him on his desk. A card, handmade with construction paper and glitter, signed by all of his students. To Mr. Johnson, the best teacher ever. Thank you for always believing in us. He read the card 3 times, each time feeling his heart swell with gratitude and love. This was why he did what he did. This was what made it all worthwhile. He carefully placed the card in his desk drawer next to the drawing Aaliyah had given him and a faded photograph of his father, his collection of treasures, reminders of why his work mattered. The students began to arrive, filling the classroom with their energy and enthusiasm. Marcus greeted each one at the door, calling them by name, asking about their mornings, making sure they felt welcome and valued. Good morning, Marcus. Good morning, Jaden. Did you finish your reading last night? Yes, Mr. Johnson. I even read an extra chapter. That's fantastic. I'm proud of you. The day unfolded like any other. Lessons in reading, math, science, and social studies. But woven throughout were moments of connection, of teaching, of building the kind of classroom community that Marcus wished he had experienced as a child. During recess, he walked the perimeter of the playground, keeping an eye on the children and occasionally joining in their games. He noticed a small boy sitting alone on a bench, watching the others play. Marcus walked over and sat down beside him. Hey there, mind if I join you? The boy shrugged. I guess not. I'm Mr. Johnson. I don't think we've met. I'm Kevin. I'm in Mrs. Thompson's class. Nice to meet you, Kevin. How come you're not playing with the other kids? Kevin kicked at the ground with his shoe. They don't want to play with me. They say I'm weird. Marcus felt a familiar pang in his chest. I'm sorry to hear that. Being left out doesn't feel good. No, it doesn't. Can I tell you a secret? Kevin looked up, curious. When I was your age, I felt the same way. I was new at this school, and some of the other kids made me feel like I didn't belong. It was really hard. What did you do? I found people who did want to be my friend, and I learned that the people who are unkind are usually dealing with their own problems. It doesn't make what they do okay, but it helps to understand that it's not your fault. Kevin considered this. How do I find people who want to be my friend? Well, the first step is to be yourself. And the second step is to be kind to others. Usually, if you show kindness, kindness comes back to you. Marcus stood up and held out his hand. Come on, let me introduce you to some kids I know who would love to have you on their team. Kevin hesitated, then took Marcus's hand and stood up. Together they walked toward a group of children playing kickball. Hey, everyone, this is Kevin. He's looking for some friends to play with. Think you can help him out? The children welcomed Kevin into their game, and soon he was laughing and running with the rest of them. Marcus watched from a distance, a satisfied smile on his face. One child at a time. That was how change happened. One moment of kindness, one act of inclusion, one decision to see the best in someone else. As the bell rang, signaling the end of recess, Marcus herded the children back inside. Kevin ran past him, breathless and grinning. Thanks, Mr. Johnson. Anytime, Kevin. I'll see you around. The rest of the day passed in a blur of activity, and before Marcus knew it, the final bell was ringing. He walked his students to the buses, said his goodbyes, and returned to his classroom to prepare for the next day. As he was packing up his things, there was a knock on the door. He looked up to see Dr. Angela Foster, the principal standing in the doorway. "Marcus, do you have a minute?" "Of course, Dr. Foster, come in." Dr. Foster had aged gracefully in the years since she had taken over as principal. Her hair was now fully grey, and there were more lines on her face, but her eyes were as sharp and kind as ever. "I wanted to let you know that the school board approved our proposal for expanding the diversity and inclusion program to the middle school level. They want you to lead the initiative." Marcus felt a surge of excitement and pride. "That's incredible news. Thank you for advocating for it." "You did most of the advocating. I just signed off on the paperwork." She smiled warmly. "You've done amazing things here, Marcus. The culture of this school has changed because of you. I hope you know that. It's been a team effort." "True. But every team needs a leader, and you've been that leader." She paused, her expression growing more serious. "There's something else. I've decided to retire at the end of the year." Marcus's eyes widened. "Dr. Foster, I had no idea." "I've been thinking about it for a while. It's time for me to step back and let someone else take the reins." She looked at him meaningfully. "The board is going to start looking for my replacement soon. I've recommended you for the position." Marcus was stunned. "Me? I've only been teaching for 5 years. 5 years that have had more impact than most people have in an entire career. You have the vision, the passion, and the respect of this community. I can't think of anyone better suited for the job." Marcus didn't know what to say. The idea of becoming principal of Westbrook Elementary, of leading the school that had once tried to break him, was almost too much to process. "Think about it," Dr. Foster said. "You don't have to decide right away, but I believe in you, Marcus. I always have." She left him alone with his thoughts, the weight of her words settling over him like a mantle. Principal of Westbrook Elementary. It was a responsibility he had never imagined taking on, but as he sat in his empty classroom, surrounded by the drawings and posters and projects of his students, he realized that maybe this was the next step in his journey. Maybe this was how he could make an even bigger difference. He thought about his father, about the lessons he had taught him. Stand tall. Be proud of who you are. Never give up. He thought about his mother, about the sacrifices she had made and the battles she had fought on his behalf. He thought about the scared little boy who had walked into this school 20 years ago, hoping to find a place where he belonged. And he made a decision. The following week, Marcus submitted his application for the principal position. The interview process was rigorous, involving multiple rounds of questions from the school board, presentations to parent groups, and evaluations by external consultants. But through it all, Marcus remained calm and confident. He knew what he stood for. He knew what he wanted to achieve. When the announcement came that he had been selected as the new principal of Westbrook Elementary, effective the following school year, the reaction was overwhelmingly positive. Parents, teachers, and community members expressed their support and congratulations. Local media covered the story, highlighting Marcus's journey from bullied student to inspiring educator. Governor Warren Mitchell, now in her final year of her second term, sent a personal note. "Dear Marcus, I am thrilled to hear of your appointment as principal of Westbrook Elementary. You have turned your pain into purpose and your struggles into strength. I have no doubt that you will continue to make a profound difference in the lives of the children you serve. With admiration and respect, Elizabeth Warren Mitchell." Marcus framed the letter and hung it in his office, next to the photograph of himself as a child and a portrait of his father. On the first day of his tenure as principal, Marcus stood at the entrance of the school, greeting every student and parent who walked through the doors. "Good morning. Welcome to Westbrook Elementary." He high-fived the kids, shook hands with the adults, and made sure every single person felt seen and valued. It was a small gesture, but it set the tone for the culture he wanted to create. His first official act was to establish a new tradition. Every month, the school would host a community gathering where students, parents, and staff could come together to celebrate achievements, share concerns, and build relationships. He called it Unity Day, and it became one of the most beloved events on the school calendar. He also expanded the peer mentorship program, pairing older students with younger ones to provide guidance and support. He instituted regular training for teachers on recognizing and addressing discrimination and bullying, and he made himself available to any student who needed someone to talk to, keeping his office door open and his heart ready to listen. The changes were not always easy. There were budget constraints, staffing challenges, and occasional pushback from those who resisted new approaches. But Marcus faced each obstacle with the same determination that had carried him through his childhood. He listened, he learned, he adapted, and he persevered. Years passed. Students came and went, each one leaving their mark on the school and on Marcus's heart. Some of them went on to great achievements, college degrees, successful careers, families of their own. Others faced struggles and setbacks, but Marcus made sure they knew they always had someone in their corner. One afternoon, a former student named Jaden returned to visit. He was now a college senior, studying to become a teacher himself. "Mr. Johnson, Principal Johnson, I just wanted to thank you. You changed my life." Marcus smiled and clapped Jaden on the shoulder. "You changed your own life, Jaden. I just helped point you in the right direction. You did more than that. You made me believe I could be something. When I was in your class, I was struggling. My parents were going through a divorce, and I was angry at the world. But you never gave up on me. You saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself." Marcus felt his eyes grow moist. That's what teachers are supposed to do. That's what everyone should do for the people around them. Jaden nodded. "That's why I want to be a teacher. I want to do for other kids what you did for me." "Then go do it. And remember, one child at a time. That's how we change the world." They hugged, two men connected by the powerful bond of mentorship and hope. As Marcus watched Jaden walk away, he thought about all the children whose lives he had touched over the years. He thought about Kevin, the lonely boy on the bench, who was now a confident high schooler with a close group of friends. He thought about Aliyah, who had gone on to win art competitions and earn a scholarship to a prestigious design school. He thought about the countless others, whose names he might have forgotten, but whose faces and stories remained etched in his memory. And he thought about himself, the 8-year-old boy who had once felt so alone and unwanted. That boy had grown into a man who dedicated his life to making sure no child ever felt that way again. The journey had been long, the journey had been hard, but it had also been beautiful, filled with moments of connection and triumph and love. Marcus Johnson had found his place in the world. He had found his purpose, and he had discovered the profound truth that his mother had always known. Every child deserves to feel like they belong, and with enough love, enough courage, and enough determination, we can create a world where they do. The sun set over Westbrook Elementary, casting a golden glow over the playground and the building that had witnessed so much transformation. Inside his office, Marcus Johnson looked out the window and smiled. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new chances to make a difference. And he would be ready for them. Because this was his school. This was his community. This was his life's work, and he belonged here. The end of another school year approached with the familiar bittersweet feeling that Marcus had come to expect. Spring flowers bloomed in the gardens the students had planted, and the trees around the campus were heavy with fresh green leaves. At the final assembly of the year, Marcus stood before the gathered students, parents, and teachers. The auditorium was packed, every seat filled with people who had become part of the Westbrook family. "As we close out another wonderful year," Marcus began, his voice carrying across the room, "I want to take a moment to reflect on what we've accomplished together." He looked out at the sea of faces, each one unique, each one valuable. "We've learned new things, we've made new friends, we've overcome challenges that seemed impossible, and through it all, we've stuck together. That's what makes Westbrook special. Not our test scores or our trophies, though we're proud of those too. What makes us special is our community, our commitment to treating each other with kindness and respect. Our belief that every single person in this room has something important to offer." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "When I was a student here many years ago, I didn't always feel like I belonged. There were times when I wanted to give up, to run away, to hide from the people who made me feel unwelcome. But I had people who believed in me. My mother, who never stopped fighting for me. Teachers who saw my potential. Friends who stood by my side." He smiled, his eyes finding his mother in the audience. She was wiping away tears, as she always did when he spoke about their journey. "Today, I want to make a promise to each and every student here. No matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter what challenges you face, you belong at Westbrook. You are wanted, you are valued, and we will always be here for you." The applause was thunderous, a wave of love and appreciation that washed over Marcus and filled his heart. After the assembly, as students and parents filtered out to begin their summer adventures, Marcus found himself alone in the empty auditorium. The chairs were askew, programs were scattered on the floor, and the echoes of the gathering still seemed to hang in the air. He walked to the center of the stage and looked out at the empty seats, imagining all the assemblies that had taken place here over the decades. The achievements celebrated, the milestones marked, the community built brick by brick, generation by generation. "You did good, son." Marcus turned, startled. His mother was standing in the doorway, a gentle smile on her face. "Mum, I thought you left. I wanted to have a moment with you, just the two of us." She walked down the aisle and joined him on the stage. Together they looked out at the empty auditorium. "Your father would be so proud of you," Denise said softly. "I know I say it all the time, but it's true. He always knew you were destined for great things. I wish he could have seen it. He sees it. I believe that with all my heart. Wherever he is, he's watching over you, cheering you on." Marcus put his arm around his mother's shoulders and pulled her close. "I couldn't have done any of this without you, Mom. You were my rock. You still are. And I always will be." They stood together in comfortable silence, two people bound by love and shared history, looking out at the space where so much had happened and so much more was yet to come. "What's next for you?" Denise asked. "Any plans for the summer?" Marcus chuckled. "Believe it or not, I'm taking a vacation. Dr. Williams suggested I actually relax for once. Can you imagine? That woman is a saint for putting up with you all these years. She'd agree with you." They laughed together, the sound echoing through the empty room. "Actually, I was thinking we could take a trip together," Marcus said. "Maybe go visit Dad's hometown, see where he grew up. I think it would be nice to connect with that part of our history." Denise's eyes lit up. "I would love that. Your father always talked about wanting to take you there when you were older. I think it's a wonderful idea." Then it's settled. The Johnson family road trip, summer edition. They left the auditorium together, arm in arm, stepping out into the warm afternoon sun. As they walked across the parking lot to their cars, Marcus took one last look at the school building, the brick walls, the large windows, the flag waving gently in the breeze. It was the place where he had experienced his greatest pain and his greatest triumph, the place where he had learned who he was and who he wanted to be. He thought about all the students who would walk through those doors in the years to come, the challenges they would face, the dreams they would chase, the people they would become. He might not be there to guide all of them, but he had done his best to create an environment where they could thrive, and that was enough. That was more than enough. "Ready to go?" Denise asked. Marcus nodded, turning away from the school and toward the future. Ready. They drove off into the afternoon, the school growing smaller in the rearview mirror until it was just a speck on the horizon, then nothing at all. But it would always be a part of him, just as he would always be a part of it. Marcus Johnson, the boy who was told he didn't belong, had built a legacy of belonging for generations to come. And that legacy would endure long after he was gone, carried forward by the children he had taught, the lives he had touched, and the love he had given so freely. The story was not over. It was never over. It was just beginning again, with each new student who walked through the doors, with each new day that brought new possibilities. And somewhere, in the heart of Westbrook Elementary, a new chapter was already being written. The following summer, Marcus and his mother did take that road trip to his father's hometown. It was a small town in Georgia, nestled among rolling hills and pine forests. They visited the house where James had grown up, met relatives Marcus had never known, and heard stories that brought his father back to life in ways he had never expected. They stood at his father's grave, a simple headstone in a quiet cemetery overlooking a pond. Marcus knelt down and placed a bouquet of flowers against the stone. "Hey, Dad, it's me. I'm sorry it took so long to visit." He talked for a while, telling his father about his life, his work, his dreams. His mother stood beside him, her hand on his shoulder, providing silent support. When he was finished, Marcus stood up and brushed the grass from his knees. "Thank you for bringing me here, Mom. Thank you for wanting to come." They drove back to the hotel in comfortable silence, the landscape passing by in a blur of green and gold. That night, Marcus sat on the balcony of his hotel room, looking up at the stars. The sky was clearer here than it was back home, and he could see the Milky Way stretching across the darkness like a river of light. He thought about everything that had led him to this moment, the pain, the struggle, the triumphs, the setbacks, the people who had helped him along the way. The children he had been privileged to teach and guide. It all felt connected somehow, like threads in a tapestry, weaving together to create something beautiful and meaningful. He made a decision that night, under the stars of his father's homeland. He would write a book, a memoir, telling his story from the beginning, the bullying, the fighting back, the healing, the becoming. He wanted to share his journey with others, to let them know that they were not alone in their struggles, that there was always hope for a better tomorrow. It took him 2 years to write it, working in the early mornings before school and the late evenings after meetings. His mother read every draft, offering feedback and encouragement. Dr. Williams helped him navigate the more difficult emotional territory. And through it all, Marcus poured his heart onto the pages. The book was published to critical acclaim. It became a bestseller, was adopted by schools across the country, and sparked a national conversation about bullying, discrimination, and the power of resilience. Marcus traveled the country, speaking at conferences and schools and community centers. He met thousands of people who had faced similar challenges, who saw themselves in his story, who found hope in his words. And through it all, he continued to serve as principal of Westbrook Elementary. Because no matter how far his journey took him, that school would always be his home. Those students would always be his family. He was Marcus Johnson, the boy who was told he didn't belong, the man who proved them wrong, and his story was far from over. On the 20th anniversary of the governor's visit to Westbrook Elementary, the school held a special celebration. Former students came from across the country to attend. Media covered the event. And Governor Warren Mitchell, now retired but still active in public life, returned to deliver a speech. 20 years ago, she said, standing at the same podium where she had first addressed the school, I met a young boy who had the courage to speak up about injustice. That boy taught me something important, that one voice, no matter how small, can make a difference. She looked at Marcus, who was sitting in the front row, surrounded by his family, his colleagues, and his students past and present. Marcus Johnson went on to become one of the most influential educators in this state. He transformed this school, changed countless lives, and inspired a movement. But I believe his greatest achievement is something simpler. He showed us what it means to belong. The audience erupted in applause. Marcus stood, acknowledging the recognition with a humble nod. When it was his turn to speak, he walked to the podium and looked out at the crowd. His mother was there, older now but still radiant. Dr. Williams was there, retired but still sharp as ever. Former students, now adults with children of their own, looked up at him with gratitude and pride. 20 years ago, I stood on this stage as a scared little boy. I didn't know if things would ever get better. I didn't know if anyone would ever care. He paused, his voice thick with emotion. But they did get better, and people did care. And today, standing here, I am filled with gratitude for every person who believed in me, fought for me, and helped me become the man I am today. He took a deep breath. But I'm also filled with a sense of responsibility, because the work is not done. There are still children out there who feel alone, unwanted, invisible. There are still schools where discrimination goes unchecked. There are still communities where certain people are made to feel like they don't belong. His voice grew stronger. We have to keep fighting. We have to keep speaking up. We have to keep showing up for each other day after day, year after year. Because that's how we change the world, not with grand gestures or sweeping reforms, but with small acts of kindness repeated over and over again. He looked directly at the students in the audience, the children who represented the future. To the young people here today, you have more power than you know. Your voice matters, your actions matter, and if you ever feel like you don't belong, I want you to remember this moment. Remember that you are surrounded by people who care about you. Remember that you are not alone. He smiled, his eyes glistening. And remember that you belong. You always have. You always will. The applause was deafening, a wave of love and support that washed over Marcus and filled his heart to overflowing. After the ceremony, as people mingled and reminisced, a young girl approached Marcus. She couldn't have been more than 8 or 9, with big brown eyes and braids tied with colorful ribbons. "Excuse me, Mr. Johnson." Marcus knelt down to be at her eye level. "Yes, sweetheart? My name is Maya. I read your book with my mom, and I wanted to tell you that it helped me a lot. Some kids at my school are mean to me because of my hair, but after reading your story, I feel braver." Marcus felt his heart swell. "Maya, thank you for telling me that. It means the world to me. Can I give you some advice?" Maya nodded eagerly. "Don't ever let anyone make you feel bad about who you are. Your hair is beautiful. You are beautiful. And those kids who are being mean, they're probably dealing with their own problems. It doesn't excuse their behavior, but it helps to understand that it's not your fault." Maya smiled. "That's what my mum says too. Your mum sounds like a smart woman." Maya's mother appeared beside them, placing a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "She talks about you all the time, Mr. Johnson. You're her hero." Marcus stood up and shook the mother's hand. "She's the brave one. It takes a lot of courage to keep going when things are hard. We're doing our best. That's all any of us can do." As Maya and her mother walked away, Marcus watched them go, feeling the same sense of purpose and fulfillment that had driven him for the past 20 years. One child at a time, one act of kindness at a time, one moment of courage at a time. That was how change happened. The sun was setting over Westbrook Elementary, casting long shadows across the playground where Marcus had once felt so alone. But he wasn't alone anymore. He was surrounded by a community he had helped build, a legacy he had helped create, and a future that was brighter because of his efforts. He thought about his father, about the lessons he had taught him. Stand tall. Be proud of who you are. Never give up. He had done all of that, and he would continue to do it for as long as he had breath in his body, because that was his purpose, that was his calling, that was his life. Marcus Johnson, the boy who was told he didn't belong, had found his place in the world, and he had helped countless others find theirs. The story was far from over, but for now, in this moment, standing in the golden light of a setting sun, surrounded by the people he loved, Marcus felt a profound sense of peace. He belonged. He had always belonged, and nothing and no one could ever take that away from him. As the last light faded from the sky and the first stars began to appear, Marcus turned and walked back toward the school, toward the future, toward the next chapter of a story that was still being written. And somewhere, in the heart of that story, a little boy smiled, knowing that he was finally truly home.